When Jake Mitchell became Denver's most trusted locksmith, homeowners relied on him to secure their most valuable possessions. But when his drug addiction and criminal connections consumed him, he began using his master keys and security knowledge to rob and murder wealthy clients, turning home security into deadly vulnerability. Before we get to this wonderful story, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now let's get back to the story. The crisp Colorado mountain air carried the scent of autumn leaves as Jake Mitchell loaded his van with specialized lockpicking tools and electronic security equipment, preparing for what would become the most dangerous house call of his 18-year career as Denver's premier residential locksmith and security specialist. At 43 years old, Jake had established himself as the Rocky Mountain region's most skilled and reliable locksmith, specializing in high-end residential security systems that protected the mansions and luxury properties of tech executives, oil industry magnates, and wealthy retirees who had chosen Colorado's scenic beauty as their primary or vacation residence. Jake's mobile locksmith service operated from a fully equipped van containing thousands of dollars worth of specialized tools, electronic lock-picking devices, and security system diagnostic equipment that allowed him to open any lock, bypass any alarm system, and duplicate any key with professional precision that had made him indispensable to Denver's security-conscious elite. His client base included prominent business leaders who trusted him with access to their homes, art collectors who relied on his expertise to protect priceless collections, and paranoid billionaires who paid premium rates for his discretion about their security arrangements and personal vulnerabilities. The interior of Jake's workshop reflected his mastery of security technology and his understanding of wealthy homeowners' fears about break-ins and property theft, featuring walls lined with thousands of key blanks, electronic lock programming stations, and detailed blueprints of the most sophisticated residential security systems available to private consumers. His credentials included certifications from major security companies, testimonials from grateful clients whose properties had been successfully protected, and photographs of him installing custom security solutions in some of Colorado's most prestigious homes. But beneath Jake's reputation for protecting homes and valuables lay a dangerous combination of methamphetamine addiction, criminal connections, and systematic burglary that had transformed him into one of Denver's most prolific home invasion specialists. "Good afternoon, Jake," said Harrison Blackwood, his 2 o'clock appointment and a 68-year-old pharmaceutical executive whose mountain estate was worth over $15 million. And contained an art collection, wine cellar, and rare book library that required the most sophisticated security protection available. Harrison had been a client for 5 years, trusting Jake not only to maintain his complex security systems, but also to provide emergency lockout services and security consultations that helped him stay ahead of evolving criminal techniques. "Good afternoon, Mr. Blackwood," Jake replied with the professional competence and reassuring confidence that had made him legendary among Denver's wealthy homeowners, who viewed him as their first line of defense against increasingly sophisticated burglary and home invasion criminals. "I've completed the security assessment of your new wine storage facility, and I have some important recommendations about upgrading your perimeter, detection systems, and installing additional backup power supplies that will ensure your collection remains protected even during extended power outages." Harrison had become Jake's most valuable target, not because of his demanding security requirements or his extensive valuable collections, but because of his habit of traveling frequently for business and his practice of storing large amounts of cash and bearer bonds in his home safe for international business transactions that couldn't be traced through traditional banking systems. Jake had been carefully studying Harrison's travel patterns and security routines for months while planning the perfect crime that would provide access to millions of dollars in untraceable assets. What Harrison didn't know was that Jake had been systematically robbing and murdering wealthy clients for over 2 years, using his intimate knowledge of their security systems and personal schedules to eliminate homeowners and steal their most valuable possessions. Jake's transformation from trusted locksmith to calculating killer had begun 3 years earlier when his methamphetamine addiction had escalated from occasional recreational use to daily dependency that consumed his entire income and forced him into desperate financial circumstances. His drug habit had grown to cost over $2,000 per week, while his gambling losses at underground poker games had accumulated to over $1,000 per week, $100,000, with organized crime figures demanding immediate payment and threatening violence if he couldn't produce the money within 30 days. Faced with impossible financial demands and credible threats of violence, Jake had initially planned to rob a few wealthy clients to raise enough money to pay his debts and finance his continued drug use. His first victim had been Dr. Patricia Williams, a prominent surgeon whose home security system Jake had installed and maintained for 3 years, giving him detailed knowledge of her routines, security vulnerabilities, and the location of her most valuable possessions. Jake had murdered Dr. Williams during a staged home invasion, using his master key access to enter her property and his knowledge of her security systems to disable alarms and surveillance equipment before killing her and stealing over $300,000 in jewelry, cash, and valuable artwork that he had converted into drug money and gambling funds. The success of his first murder and robbery had convinced Jake that killing wealthy clients was both profitable and virtually undetectable when executed by someone with his security expertise and legitimate access to their homes. Over the following 2 years, Jake had murdered 9 additional clients using various methods that took advantage of his intimate knowledge of their security systems, personal schedules, and the locations of their most valuable possessions. His victims had been carefully selected based on their wealth, their travel patterns that provided opportunities for undetected break-ins, and their trust in his professional services that eliminated suspicion about his access to their properties. His victims had included Robert Chen, a tech executive whose cryptocurrency storage devices had been worth over $5 million, Jennifer Martinez, a real estate developer whose home safe had contained bearer bonds and rare coins, and David Foster, an oil industry executive whose art collection had been sold through black market dealers for substantial profits. Jake, I need to discuss some serious security concerns about unusual break-in patterns affecting several of your clients over the past 2 years, said Detective Sarah Walsh of the Denver Police Department's Burglary Division as she approached Jake's van during a routine service call while displaying her credentials and a warrant to inspect his equipment and records. Detective Walsh specialized in investigating sophisticated burglary operations and had developed expertise in identifying patterns of criminal activity by service professionals who exploited their access to wealthy clients. Detective Walsh's investigation represented an existential threat to Jake's criminal operation, as her law enforcement expertise and access to crime scene analysis could connect the sophisticated burglaries to his security knowledge and client access. Of course, Detective Walsh, Jake replied, though he felt the familiar surge of anxiety and paranoia that accompanied any official scrutiny of his business activities by law enforcement officers who possessed the training and resources to detect connections between his security work and the recent burglaries affecting wealthy homeowners. Home security is my highest priority, and I'm always concerned about any criminal activity that might affect my clients or compromise the systems I've installed to protect their families and property. Detective Walsh consulted detailed case files and crime scene analyses from multiple burglaries that showed sophisticated knowledge of security systems and evidence of professional lockpicking and alarm bypass techniques that suggested the perpetrator possessed advanced technical skills and intimate knowledge of residential security technology. Jake, I've been investigating a series of high-value residential burglaries that have occurred over the past 2 years, and I've discovered some very specific technical signatures that suggest these crimes were committed by someone with professional locksmith training and detailed knowledge of modern security systems, Detective Walsh said, with a methodical precision that had made her successful in solving complex burglary cases. The burglar demonstrated sophisticated techniques for bypassing electronic locks, disabling alarm systems, and accessing high-security safes using methods that would only be known to certified security professionals. Additionally, several of the targeted homes had recently received security upgrades or maintenance services that would have provided detailed information about system vulnerabilities and valuable property locations. The detective's identification of the professional techniques and her recognition of the connection to recent security services confirmed Jake's worst fears that his criminal methods had been analyzed and connected to his legitimate locksmith business and client access patterns. Jake's response was swift and desperate as he realized that eliminating Detective Walsh was essential for protecting his criminal operation and preventing exposure of his systematic burglary and murder spree. "Detective Walsh, I think your analysis is very insightful, but there are many locksmiths and security professionals in the Denver area who would have the technical knowledge to commit these types of crimes," Jake said, while discreetly reaching for a modified lockpicking tool that he had sharpened into a weapon for use during home invasions when homeowners unexpectedly returned during robberies. "Perhaps I could show you some of the advanced techniques that criminals might be using, so you can better understand how to protect homeowners from these sophisticated attacks. My van contains demonstration equipment that would help illustrate the vulnerabilities that these burglars are exploiting." Detective Walsh agreed to examine Jake's demonstration equipment, not realizing that the locksmith was leading her to his mobile workshop, where he had planned previous crimes and where he intended to murder her using the same techniques he had perfected during 2 years of systematic home invasions. Jake's plan involved attacking Detective Walsh with his modified tool while she was examining his equipment, then disposing of her body using methods he had developed for eliminating witnesses and evidence during his criminal operations. But Jake's carefully planned murder of the detective was about to be prevented by the unexpected arrival of DEA agents who had been investigating methamphetamine distribution networks and had identified connections to Jake's drug purchases and criminal activities. Special Agent Michael Torres of the DEA's Narcotics Division had been conducting a comprehensive investigation into methamphetamine distribution networks operating throughout the Denver metropolitan area. Agent Torres specialized in investigating drug users who committed crimes to finance their addictions and had developed expertise in tracking criminals who used legitimate employment to access victims and criminal opportunities. The federal investigation had been initiated by reports from drug dealers who had been cooperating with law enforcement in exchange for reduced sentences and had provided information about customers who were committing serious crimes to obtain money for drug purchases. The investigation had focused on Jake's activities after discovering that he had been purchasing large quantities of methamphetamine while working as a locksmith with access to wealthy clients' homes and valuable property. Agent Torres had been conducting surveillance of Jake's drug purchases and criminal associations and had documented evidence of his methamphetamine addiction, connections to organized crime figures, and suspicious patterns of client visits that coincided with subsequent burglaries and murders. "Jake Mitchell, I'm Special Agent Torres with the DEA," he announced as he approached Jake's van where the locksmith was preparing to murder Detective Walsh. "I have federal warrants for your arrest on charges of conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, multiple counts of first-degree murder, and systematic burglary and robbery related to your exploitation of client trust and security knowledge." Jake's reaction to the federal agent's intervention was a combination of absolute panic and violent desperation as he realized that law enforcement agencies at multiple levels had been investigating his drug activities and had connected them to his systematic home invasion and murder operations. His carefully maintained reputation as a professional security expert had failed to protect him from comprehensive investigation by agencies with expertise in drug-related crimes. "Special Agent Torres, there must be some serious misunderstanding about my business operations and professional services," Jake said frantically, while abandoning his plan to murder Detective Walsh and attempting to maintain his professional credibility despite the overwhelming evidence against his criminal activities. "I am a licensed locksmith with 18 years of experience providing security services to Denver's most prominent families. I would never engage in any criminal activities that could compromise my clients' safety or violate the trust they place in my professional expertise." Detective Walsh looked absolutely stunned as she realized how close she had come to being murdered by the locksmith she'd been investigating for sophisticated burglary operations. Her criminal analysis had not only exposed Jake's systematic burglary and murder spree, but had also prevented her own death at the hands of a killer who'd been using his security expertise to identify and eliminate wealthy victims. The comprehensive investigation that followed Jake's arrest revealed the full scope of his criminal enterprise and the sophisticated methods he had developed to exploit his security knowledge for systematic robbery and murder. Forensic analysis of Jake's equipment and records revealed extensive evidence of his burglary operations, including stolen property worth over $8 million, detailed surveillance notes about wealthy clients' routines and vulnerabilities, and modified tools that had been used both for professional locksmith work and for committing murders during home invasions. His personal belongings included drug paraphernalia, large amounts of cash, and detailed maps showing the locations of his victims' properties and escape routes. The investigation also uncovered Jake's connections to organized crime figures who had been purchasing stolen property and had provided information about potential targets for robbery and murder. His drug dealers had been using him as a source of information about wealthy homeowners who might be suitable for kidnapping, extortion, or other criminal activities that required detailed knowledge of security systems and personal vulnerabilities. Most disturbing was the discovery of Jake's detailed expansion plans for his criminal operation, including recruitment of other service professionals who could provide access to wealthy clients and the development of a systematic network for identifying and targeting high-value properties throughout Colorado's affluent communities. Jake Mitchell was ultimately convicted of 10 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, systematic burglary and robbery, and numerous other charges related to his exploitation of client trust and security expertise. The conviction sent unprecedented shockwaves throughout Denver's locksmith and security industries, prompting immediate reforms in professional licensing, background checking procedures, and client protection protocols. The case became a landmark example of how trusted service professionals could systematically exploit their technical expertise and client access to commit large-scale robbery and murder while hiding behind legitimate business operations. Several other locksmiths and security professionals were investigated for similar criminal activities, resulting in enhanced oversight of the security industry and new requirements for ongoing background monitoring that made it more difficult for criminals to maintain professional licenses while engaging in systematic criminal behavior. Detective Walsh and Special Agent Torres received recognition for their collaborative investigation and became specialists in investigating service professional crimes, developing new techniques for identifying professionals who exploited their client access and technical expertise for criminal purposes. Harrison, Blackwood, and other surviving clients required extensive security consultations and psychological counseling to overcome the trauma of learning that their trusted locksmith had been planning to rob and murder them while using his security knowledge to identify their vulnerabilities. The security industry implemented comprehensive new safety protocols designed to protect clients from exploitation by unethical service providers. The case prompted comprehensive changes in security industry regulation, including mandatory psychological evaluations for security professionals, enhanced background monitoring systems, real-time reporting of suspicious activities, and new client protection protocols designed to prevent exploitation by service providers with criminal intentions. Jake's conviction also led to increased cooperation between security industry licensing boards and law enforcement agencies investigating professional crimes, with new protocols designed to identify service providers who might be abusing their technical expertise and client access for criminal purposes. The locksmith and broader security industries implemented revolutionary new safety measures, including enhanced screening procedures for professionals, comprehensive client advocacy programs, mandatory reporting of suspicious professional behaviors, and improved training for recognizing signs of substance abuse and criminal activity among service providers. 5 years after Jake's conviction and life imprisonment, Denver's security industry continued to implement safeguards designed to protect clients from professionals who might abuse their positions of trust and technical expertise for criminal purposes. The locksmith, who had promised to protect homes and families from criminal intrusion, had instead used his security expertise and professional access to commit systematic robbery and murder against the very clients who had trusted him with their safety and their lives. However, his crimes had been thoroughly exposed, and his victims had found justice through the dedication of investigators who refused to accept sophisticated burglaries as the work of unknown criminals. Jake Mitchell's final key had opened the door to his own prison cell, where he would serve multiple life sentences without possibility of parole, proving that even security professionals who attempted to exploit their technical knowledge for criminal gain could be identified, investigated, and brought to justice when dedicated law enforcement agencies worked together to protect innocent clients from predatory service providers. The locksmith's final key had unlocked his pathway to justice, serving as a permanent reminder that those entrusted with protecting others must never abuse that trust, and that professionals who would use their expertise to harm the very people they promised to protect will ultimately face the full consequences of their betrayal of professional integrity and human decency. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.